What is the most cold-hearted comment you have ever made? At a party, an acquaintance who is a special ed teacher was explaining the choking hazard of hot dogs. She described one of her students who lost oxygen for a long enough time that it caused further brain damage than what he already had. I asked if he was moved into the extra special ed class. Thought that was going a different direction at choking hazard of hot dogs. I was shopping once when a short, fat, older woman tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Honey, did you want to?" "Oh, you're not my husband," I smiled, looked her right in the eye and said, "You couldn't be that lucky." What I'd meant to say was, I couldn't be that lucky. In your wildest dreams, cow. I was in another state when my roommate tried to kill himself by smashing a beer bottle on the counter and trying to cut his wrists. When I got back, my friend that was with me was showing me the app damage, and I said, "Ugh, there were razor blades right there." My friend's puppy named Butters got ran over by his grandpa. 2 weeks later they got a new dog and I told him he should name him "I can't believe it's not Butters." To be fair, that was funny. In high school I had just gotten my hair cut and I was trying out a new style. I went over to a friend's house after where his younger sister's hamster had died. So she looks at my hair and says, "Ha, you look stupid." I turned to her and said, "Ha, your hamster died," really loud in front of their whole family. Sounds like a mean fest all around. I walked into a classroom back in high school and noted a weird smell and said, "What the heck? Did somebody leave a dead fish in here?" Everyone, including the teacher, started to laugh. Almost immediately this girl burst out crying and ran out. Her friends all shot me dirty looks and later found out she was on her period and apparently was very self-aware and mortified by her odor problem. It was an innocent comment. I grew up in a town surrounded by lots of rural areas and some of the kids in my class would go fishing before school. Every once in a while one of them would bring a cooler full of fish to class and would get chewed out because of the smell. I work in pharmacy, and a couple years ago particularly grumpy old man decided to scream abuse at one of my girls, causing her to have a bit of a meltdown in the store just as I intervened. As he was walking out I turned to my co-worker and said, "Don't worry, he's going to die soon. Waiver for you." I love it when old people get called out on being bastards. Having wrinkly skin isn't a free pass to being a dong. A rather large girl came up to me at a party and said, "You're not even drunk." I replied with, "The only reason I am even talking to you is because I've had 5 beers. Well, what I meant by that is that I am usually pretty quiet shy around new people, so I was using beer as my excuse for actually not being quiet. Major foot in mouth moment. Reminds me of the time I met a cute girl, briefly, and as we parted I tried to say it was nice almost meeting you. What came out of my mouth was "It was almost nice meeting you." Went to a bar the night before a friend's band was going to play and he and his bandmates were setting up their equipment for the next evening. I told them, "You guys look like roadies for a better band." As a guitarist in 3 bands, I can confirm that this is not cold-hearted, but dang funny. My father, myself and a friend are at my brother's graduation. We walk into the auditorium and are standing to the side trying to figure out where we are supposed to sit. Usher in a wheelchair comes over and says, kinda nastily, "You can't stand there." Without missing a beat I said, "Apparently neither can you." I actually felt terrible afterwards, but it's one of the only times I've ever been spot on with a comeback. I told a girl after I broke up with her that it must be exhausting and frustrating to wake up every morning knowing that you have to be you all day long. Vacant stare. I was arguing with this kid about something and I said, "At least my grades aren't failing like your parents' marriage." There was dead freaking silence all around. It was well known that his mom had cheated on his dad with a crap load of guys. His mom is only failing her marriage class because she got caught cheating. Lying in bed with my ex-wife, arguing. Petty barbs are exchanged. She says, "Do you know what your butt reminds me of?" Not a single beat missed. Your face? So childish it's hilarious. My cousin was hit and killed by a taxi in NYC while running across the street for a Klondike bar after getting out of a bar with friends. My first reaction was to sing that jingle from all those old commercials, "What would you do, oh, 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 for a Klondike bar?" Dodge traffic. It's okay. I have my ticket with me right now. I'll see myself out. My 32-year-old sister still lived with my parents. Her husband and her son neither worked and they collected food stamps. She professed over dinner one night when I was visiting that she was voting for McCain because Obama just wants to redistribute the wealth. I immediately shouted to you, B. I wouldn't feel bad about that. I'd high-five you right now if I could. Freshman year of high school, a kid who ordinarily picked on me was trying to be buddy-buddy with me for science worksheet answers. He wasn't very good at it, and even his attempts to fake being friendly came off as sarcastic. After repeatedly telling him to leave me alone, I eventually told him that the fact that good people all over the world died of starvation and disease every day while he continued to live made me sad. He started crying and his friend called me a monster. Maybe he was right, or maybe his friend should have backed off me. I still don't know how I feel about it. I'd feel good. Someone was trying to bully you and walk all over you. The real travesty would have been to let him get away with it. There is nothing you could ever do that would make me feel attracted to you. It's not often you get to crush the hopes and dreams of another person. I once said to my ex, who left me for someone else, "I'm sorry you think you have something special. I made that mistake once too." That's not cold-hearted. I would have said the same thing to my ex if she had cheated on me, too. Sometimes comments like that may be mean, but in this context and in my opinion, I think that what you said was justified by their actions. My friend's mom died from cancer in middle school. A few years later we were in the habit of making your mom jokes and I came into school one morning real tired and looking like crap. He told me I looked like the face of death, and before I knew it I replied, "Your mom looks like the face of death." Whoops. That's cold. Friend is an EMT, tells me she had a 6-year-old die on her the other day. He probably would have been the next Hitler. Anyway, somehow that did not comfort her. In 6th grade this girl, let's say her name is Jenny, had a crush on me. I was young and immature and she was ugly, so in her friend's yearbook I wrote, "Please tell your ugly friend Jenny to leave me alone." It was very mean and I regret it. Fast forward like 13 years later, I am a martial arts instructor and we have a new little like 4-year-old in the class. And while I am teaching the whole time the mom is giving me the most dirtiest look. It was very weird. After class I checked their paperwork. The mom's name was Jenny. They never came back. A friend's parents were having a divorce, and there were subsequent money troubles that forced them to sell their only car. During a heated argument, I said, "How do you get enough food to stay as fat as you are? You can't even afford a car." I still feel freaking awful about that. For some reason a friend of mine and I had a joke that ended with "Your mom died. Your mom died." A female friend of mine had just lost her mother a week earlier. She said something triggering the joke and I bellowed the punchline. All she said was, "Yeah, she did." I felt like crap. I've really learned to avoid your mom jokes, especially as I've gotten older. Parents don't last forever, and anyone who's lost theirs shouldn't have that thrown in their face. My mom and dad were going through a divorce due to an affair of my mother's doing. My dad was staying with me and really upset, but remained hopeful whether her cheating continued. He came to me to emotionally vent. One night I couldn't stand by and watch my Superman be broken anymore. I told him he was like someone flying a kite, and although the storm had broken the string long ago, he stood there holding it waiting for the kite to return. My father became silent and stared into space with a look of heartache for an hour, then got up and left. It broke my heart. Update. Wow. Huge response. I appreciate all the comments, guys. The fact of the matter is this conversation happened last night. Yes, the silence was awkward. I felt like I stamped out the last ember of hope he was holding on to. Why he left the house and didn't throw her out is because he still loves her. They have been married 31 years and this is how I see my mom now. As a lying, cheating W who tells me and my brother it's none of my business. It sucks. Sorry for venting there, guys. Me and my dad go to a bar every Monday to talk and play trivia, so hopefully I'll see him tonight. Feel free to ask any questions. This was less of a comment, but I had been broken up with an ex-girlfriend for about 6 months. We slept together a few times during that time, but never at any point did I agree to get back together with her. Well, I met someone new, starting dating them. All was dandy. I got an email one day from my ex, full of nasty things, etc. However, she also made a mess of her grammar and spelling in the letter. I made all the corrections in red and underlined them, wrote nothing else in response, and sent the email back to her. Haven't heard a word since. Friend broke up with his girlfriend and made 10 Facebook statuses. It was annoying, so I just said you seem depressed. I can tell by the exponential growth in annoying statuses on your wall today he got P. To be fair, that kind of Facebook person is really annoying. I met my stalker and she wanted me to guess her name. So, I told her that her first name was Ugg. She looked puzzled, so I explained further. I told her that her last name was Lee. She then climbed into the bathtub at home and slit her wrists and throat. On a bus being driven uncomfortably fast, my friend walked up to the cab while stopped at the lights to complain. The driver unrepentantly proclaimed, "Sit down, I know what I'm doing." "No mate," replied my friend sarcastically. "If you knew what you were doing, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing." He had planted the seed of introspection, because the remainder of the journey was like driving Miss Daisy. Once in an elevator, a girl reached to press a button and missed. Being the 16-year-old douchebag I was, I told her she failed and should quit life. Her friend got really upset and pulled the girl's sleeves up to reveal a bunch of scars and says she's tried. The only way I thought to recover from the situation was to say, "Well, try harder." Sometimes when I'm alone I think on that moment and really hate myself for it. Her friend's kind of an butthole for showing you something so personal. I had a friend who whenever someone would say a yo mama joke or something, she'd instantly get super angry and be like her mom's dead butthole. I know she meant well, but it was infuriating. When I was in elementary school, one of the boys was being a little priss and making everyone in the Foursquare game mad, and out of frustration I yelled at him, "You think you're cool, but you're not." He cried. "Whoa, they're badass." She's too big to be the ugly stick, more like the ugly barrel. I'm not proud of it. Not said to the person. It was a long time ago. Everyone else laughed and I felt like crap. So, I was in the police academy when a buddy of mine took a few days off for his mother's funeral. When he got back we had to go to the shooting range for qualification. Naturally, things got competitive. He outshot me. I said, "Hugh, this is embarrassing and I regret it to this day." I said, "Frick your mother, I wasn't even thinking in context." He just looked at me and very quietly said, "Dude, why would you say that to me right now?" I almost turned the gun on myself. Seeing Police Academy capitalized made me think there was gonna be something about Steve Guttenberg. Good story though. You went to boarding school. Did your parents not like you very much or something? Me. 2011. This girl continuously drinks and drives because she is an incredibly emotional drunk. I don't know why she keeps getting invited to things, because without fail she will break down in uncontrollable sobs during a night of drinking. Anyway, after she finished yelling and crying at everyone, she goes to get into her car and I scream out, "I hope this time you drive away you wrap your car around a freaking tree, so you don't kill another person and so I don't ever have to see you again." It was horrible. Everyone was kind of silent. As soon as she left we all agreed to not speak to her, and talked about how she probably won't make it through the next year. Why her friends don't get her help is beyond me. I despise this person. I got in an argument with my older sister while we were waiting for the bus. She got on the defensive and called me fat. Without thinking, I shot back, "At least I know who my dad is." Ooh, yeah. When I was 6 or 7 I got really mad at my sister and said, "Yeah, well, at least I'm not adopted." I deserve getting in a lot of trouble for that one. To my mother, 1 year after you got together with him, my stepfather for 11 years, I thought if he leaves her I wanna go live with him. Back in 5th grade I was pretty obese. This one kid simply said, "Haha, you're fat." Well, he had the bad luck of me finding out his sister got shot and killed while pregnant. So I come back with, "Haha, your sister and future niece died." He cried. I laughed. This is how people learn not to say hurtful things unless they are ready to hear them back. Some girl I know always has a new boyfriend. sleeps around, etc. Was upset one day and was complaining about wanting to be in a serious relationship. She has always wanted to mess around with me, nice to me, and eventually during the convo said, "I just wanna be loved," to which I replied, "Maybe you don't deserve to be." She stayed quiet. I've been skinny all my life, and in high school a rather large girl told me I need to eat a cheeseburger and to stop throwing up. I got sick of that crap because I'm not anorexic or bulimic. I told her she needed to starve herself so she could finally be like the people she envied so much, and then maybe she wouldn't be such a bee. And I still get these comments even though I'm 23 now. Crap gets annoying. I hate when people do that to me. Being skinny doesn't mean anorexia. Frick you and the horse you rode in on. That was actually a fantastic horse with impeccable morals. I was just caught in the heat of the moment. I'm an atheist and, generally, a nice person. Well, I was dating this one chick who told me she loved me, wanted to get a place together as soon as our leases ended and all this yada yada yada. I was totally down as I was in love with this girl despite the fact that she was Christian and believed in it. Long story short, she goes on vaca for 2 weeks up to Yellowstone and is staying with a guy friend of a friend up there. Next time I see her, she's dragging this dude around with her and has since decided to move up there with him. What hurt the most is she didn't bother to tell me. Just let me find out by showing up with him. We get in a text fight and I send her something along the lines of, "Well, you're a massive bee and I hope God's plan works out better for you than it did for your dog." Her dog had just recently got run over and died. Prob the coldest thing I've ever said to someone. You don't want her to die like her dog. Sounds nice. I told my best friend, who is overly attached to her parents, that her mom is a C and that I wouldn't speak to her family ever again or even step on the same ground they have stepped on. That was harsh, but they really pee me off that time, and I also sincerely believe they are C. So, on a drunken rage I called an old friend's mom a C and she went bat crap crazy. I didn't understand because this old friend of mine used the word daily. She even has the word tattooed on the inside of her lower lip. What a C. Talking to girl at party who has had a crush on me for years. She has been drinking longer than I have, but I'm catching up quickly. She keeps implying that I should follow her to one of the bedrooms. I look her straight in the eye and tell her I'm very superficial about weight. Her face goes from all smiles to heartbroken in seconds. She ended up getting a pity frick from her ex, while I continued to drink myself into oblivion and later pee on some dude who was peeing into the stove. I am not terribly good at life. When I was 7, my uncle was killed by a drunk driver. As we walked into his house, there was a welcome sign with his name, my aunts, and their 2 kids. I looked at it and told my grandmother, "Well, that'll have to be changed." She quietly said yes and then turned away. That moment has haunted me for years. I so deeply regret hurting my grandmother even more that day. Maybe it's the Canadian in me, but you are an embarrassment to my degree in this institute and do not deserve to graduate or call me your peer, is the worst thing I've ever said to anyone. Though the group members were dumb, I slightly regret saying this even to this day. When you get owned that artistically, it doesn't even hurt. Stop complaining, you freaking fatus. If you don't like your body, freaking do something about it. If you don't, then shut the frick up. Harsh, but I feel the edge is taken off if you are eating a double cheeseburger while saying this. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.